One, go.
My name is Jared,
Hi, my name is Ryan.
and we did high school, and our task is learning to swim.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. For our unit goals, we divided up into 3 different parts: psychomotor, cognitive, and the affective. For the psychomotor, we gave it 60% because we felt that performing the skill is a greater portion of the skill itself compared to the cognitive and the affective. The cognitive, we gave 25% because we felt that understanding the technique is vital to, or is important to further bettering yourself in the technique itself. And 15% for the affective because the psychomotor and the cognitive complement each other. And for the fitness portion, we did not include that because we felt that having a fitness portion is not vital to learning the skill itself.
So we are going to have some daily expectations for our students. We are going to be primarily looking at whether they are dressing up to come swim, because if they don't dress up to swim, then they can't swim. And we are expecting them to be prepared to learn new skills, because we are going to be trying to teach them throughout the course different types of strokes, or different types of skills for swimming. And then the type of assessment that we will be using for our daily expectations is just a weekly rubric that just basically has them grading themselves on whether they have been dressing out, participating, and coming to class on time. This will be a very small portion of their grade. It won't contain a lot of points, but it will be just a form of accountability, essentially, in the affective domain of learning. And so we kind of went with a theme called WOW, daily WOW expectations. And so each letter represents a different thing, such as coming to class well prepared, on task by being participating in the lessons, and was on time. And so we tried to make it a little fun in that way. So, and they'll be receiving one of these every week to assess themselves. So yeah. So for our psychomotor assessment portion, we are going to focus on 3 primary strokes for swimming, such as freestyle, breaststroke, and backstroke. Those will be the 3 that we look at throughout the course. They will probably be learning other strokes, but these ones will be the primary ones. We have 3 separate rubrics for assessing these. The first one is obviously for the freestyle, and this will be just looking at whether they are using their arms properly, using their legs properly, whether their breathing technique is in order, whether they're pacing themselves well. It will be looking at multiple cues for the specific stroke, and that will basically be the criteria for all the rubrics, just looking at the arms, the legs, the breathing, whether or not they have the proper fluidity of all of the motions coming together. And these rubrics are all going to be qualitative rubrics, which are just based off of a number with a brief explanation of what is required.
3, go. So for the homework assessment, we are going to have a take-home assessment of 3 different portions. This student swimmer is going to need to find a pool outside of the classroom. The point of these assessments is to increase the skill of the student, and it is a quantitative assessment in the psychomotor portion of the skill. So for our rubric, we are going to have a assignment where we do a certain amount of laps per assessment. So the first assessment, and then the second assessment, and then the third assessment will increasingly have more laps. And depending on how many laps you do, will be determined by how many points that you get.
So, for our cognitive assessment, we are going to stray away from the traditional test and quiz and do more of a written assignment. This assessment will be a way to see if they understand the functions of a new skill that they will research themselves. Whether that is a flip turn or a new stroke that we have not learned in the class. And so there will be 3 portions to this assessment or assignment. The first one is to find a picture or to create a drawing of the skill or stroke or whatever it may be. And then the second portion will be to create a list of all of the cues and characteristics of the skill that is chosen. And the third portion of this assessment/assignment is to write a half page to page description of how to perform the skill itself. And we would like this to be as detailed as possible, with as much clarity as possible as well. And so the rubric that we have provided for them is a quantitative rubric, as you can see on here. It tells them just what type of details and what type of expectations that they need for each portion of this assessment/assignment. And so this will be the cognitive assessment. So for our affective assessment, we are going to ask the students to pair up with a peer and do a peer assessment. And in this assessment, they will be observing each other. The assessor will choose 2 of the strokes that they've learned thus far for the assessee to perform. And then the assessor will watch them and write down any cues that were properly performed, and then there will be a section for them to write down any mistakes or any critical feedback that is needed, and then the assessor will give the assessee a score depending on how well they think they performed the specific stroke. And so we have just a kind of assessment guideline rubric for them to look at. As you can see, here's the first portion where the stroke is for the first stroke, and then as you go down you can see the second portion where the second stroke is, and at the top of it is some instructions on how to do the assessment itself. And so that is our effective assessment.
Alright, ready? 1, 2, 3, go. For our summative assessment, we're going to have, at the end of the course, we will have the students perform 2 laps of all 3 strokes. The instructor will have each student go individually, and he'll be grading and assessing each stroke. For our rubric, we developed a qualitative rubric on a scale of 1 to 4. So 4 would be all elements of the technique are expressed, and say 1 would be little to none of the elements of the technique are demonstrated. And so we each have them for freestyle, breaststroke, and backstroke, and we have each individually broken down for what the instructor would be looking for. And so this is the end of the rubrics that we'll be having.